What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MyFilmMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic who's a little bit chilly right now, so my hood's up. Um, and This is Red Rooms. It's from Canada. It is mostly in French with a little bit of English. It's about a 90-10 split, 95-10, 95-5, I don't know, somewhere around in there. It's not a lot of English, but there's some every once in a while. And in really interesting places too, and I want to talk about that. So it does not have audio description. It was submitted for my consideration for awards. It's I'm going to use the term thriller because I don't know that it ever. I listened to three people review this, three people who I trust that are really solid film critics who I sometimes give shout outs to. And They are Deep Focus Lens, the Spooky Astronauts, and I'm gonna forget the other guy's name. And he's very horror minded. It may come back to me, but I listened to three different people talk about this film who I subscribe to and listen to their reviews regularly so that I had some sort of idea of what this film was, because I did get bits and pieces, but there's no audio description here. So would I recommend this to a blind and low vision audience? Fuck no. No, I would not. But then again, I kind of wonder, and this is what I'm putting it out because I know sometimes my stuff travels. Hello, Canada. Do you have audio description for this? And if so, is it in English or is it in French? Because I could see it going either way. The argument would be there's both here, but I mentioned that with Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez has both English and Spanish in the film, but yeah, there's only a Spanish audio description track. So sometimes when they flip the bilingual coin and they're too cheap to pay for multiple audio description tracks, they pay for the predominant one, which just sort of leaves us out in the cold, which is very weird because then it still means that they have to dub the English part into Spanish. So, and like here they would have to dub, I suppose they'd have to dub the French part into the English part into French. I don't know. I don't know what's going on up there in Canada. But drop a line in the comments if you are blind and have seen this movie with audio description and you live in Canada. But here in America, it did not. And it's not just because I was submitted this as a screener. I've also seen this movie drop on VOD, and it did not have audio description on VOD. So otherwise I would have rented it and watched the audio description and not put myself through this. I would have done that. But yeah, like iTunes has it listed without audio description. So there's also a movie on Tubi, by the way, I should say, in case you guys try to find this. It's not the Tubi movie, which I didn't even know. One of those channels, I think Spooky Astronauts brought that up, that there's a movie on Tubi that's not this. So be careful and don't go to Tubi for this. Although that'd be really interesting if Red Rooms went to Tubi and there were two movies on Tubi called Red Rooms. Anyway, so what is this? Well, what I wasn't able to pick up on is that it's sort of like a courtroom drama based around a serial killer, who sort of like a dark webbish thing. Red Rooms are sort of a little bit of an urban legend, and that this killer was doing horrific things and filming them and selling snuff films. Basically, this is like Canadian 8mm on crack. But also not, because apparently it doesn't really show anything. It kind of just talks about a lot of it. There isn't like the opening stuff, which makes a whole lot of sense, because I was wondering, are we in an interrogation? Like, where are we? Because when I was sitting there watching the first part of the film, it's like one lady that talks for, God, at least 5 to 10 minutes. The first part of this movie is one lady talking for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's followed by a dude talking for 5 to 10 minutes. And I should have picked up on the fact that it's a courtroom sequence. I was like, what is this? But not knowing anything about this movie, I did not know. And then afterwards, when I heard it described, I was like, oh, of course. Of course that's what was happening. Nobody monologues for that long They're not in a courtroom drama. So, um, but you don't spend a lot of time in the courtroom. You spend it with this model, this French model, who for some reason is watching the trial and you're not really sure why. And apparently she's an interesting person, and the film sort of devolves into madness through her. But I didn't pick up on any of that because, again, it's not in my language and there was no audio description. So, what I found really funny in the most entertaining way is she has an AI that's like a personal assistant. One of the critics described it as that she had actually programmed her own AI. So it's not one of the ones that you would use normally. Like it's her own version, which is amazing that she's a model who can program AI. Like that immediately makes me go, I think there's more to this story, you know? Um, but she had these interactions with AI, which really made me think, and I'm glad that now I know that that this is not like real. I was like, is this, could I be doing this? Because I've started to learn a little bit of Spanish and I would love to be able to have it set to English primary, but also like if I want to send one of my Spanish speaking friends something in Spanish, I want it to understand it and not like translate it as like gibberish because I didn't speak in English. But basically, she uses like what would be a bilingual assistant. So the assistant responds to her in English, which was like one of the funny things about this movie is that this assistant is in English and she speaks to it in French. So she'll say something like she might respond to it back, like, do you want to send the message? Yes, like that kind of thing. But the message that she'll send, you know, to her friend or whatever will be in French. And I'm like, I don't think we can do that. These are the things I think about when I have no context to anything in the movie. I get really caught up on audio description, like lack of audio description. I get caught up on this little um, AI assistant thing. There was another conversation that she was having with. There were like two women, and there was a little bit of English there. I remember the first English that I heard was dark web. I was like, oh, there we go. Um, it's funny that there's no French translation for dark web. Like it's ubiquitous. It's just you say dark web no matter what language you're in. Um, so yeah, it is. Yeah, I didn't. I listened to three people talk about this film, and they're all like, "Oh, it's chilling. Oh, it's disturbing. It's not going to be for everybody." I mean, I don't think that Red Rooms is really taking itself seriously as an Oscar contender, but if you're trying to get fans, I mean, you are doing like American film festivals, and blind people do go to these things. So I would say, I'm aware there's an entire community online that's dedicated to audio description just for horror movies. Not that, there's an entire community that's dedicated to audio description broadly that has obviously far more members because it's a broad overreach. But there's actually so many people who love just horror movies, which is why I've always been like, why the fuck doesn't Shudder have audio description? Um, I wish they knew. Like, there's a built-in base for this, and there are people who would love to go to something like Fantasia and see something like this and have it accessible to them, but they can't. And therefore, they're left out of the conversation. So their sighted friends are like, oh my God, have you seen Red Rooms? And it's like, no, I can't because it's in French. So that's what I'm kind of wondering is like, is there a description in Canada that we could float down here? Did it get, what did they do with it up there? So maybe there is, I don't know, but it needs to port itself on down here to America, um, for the land of free. It's my American accent. Um, I don't have a lot of thoughts on this. It doesn't have necessarily like a score where I was like, oh my God. Um, Actually, if anything, it was really just sort of jarring because the credits were annoying. I actually had like the volume turned, like I had managed the volume because the credits have sort of like aggressively loud music compared to the courtroom scene where like the speaking volume of those voices is not as loud. So I wasn't ready for this. So then I had to like, but then I was afraid. I was like, are we going to get louder again? Is this intentionally quiet? It's the not knowing. So I was like, man, if I get screamers in this movie and I have to turn up the volume because I can't hear these people, because I'm looking for little things. Like I'm looking for the English words because I know people are going to challenge me and be like, you didn't actually sit through this. And I'm like, fuck you, I did, because here's this, and this, all the way through the film. So, um, and yeah, it just has, and it does the same thing at the end. It has like the credits, but the whole movie isn't like that. So, I don't know. If you're excited, go forth, young man. Watch. I gave you a couple critics. I wish I could think of the other guy's name. He does a lot of horror movie reviews. It's pretty much why I use him. Um, he only does horror movie reviews, and I can't think of his channel right now. But at least the other two are really solid, and I love their film criticism. So if you want to know more about this film, check out the review. If you're excited, yeah, I'm a critic who sends you to other critics because I don't see the problem in that. I don't know why we can't support each other. So I highly recommend Defocused Lens. She's one of my top 10 film critics just in general. I think her analysis of the movie is exceptional. She has a review of Red Rooms. Also, if you want a competing opinion, there's also Spooky Astronauts. She also has a review of Red Rooms. So, but I would really love for this film to have audio description because right now my grade is unwatchable. And I can't even give you a floating grade because I got virtually nothing from this movie. So, except I had a lot of questions about what my virtual assistant could do for me. It's like, wait a minute. Um, which is not the point of this movie. So, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.